instructional toy today for your toddler, and your little superstar will develop before she is even 3 years old. Today, we push our children to grow up all too soon. We hurry our children in many ways, such as pressure in competitive sports, excellence in education, and giving adulthood to them too soon. Often, parents do not realize that their child is part of this epidemic, as they only see what they are bettering their child. We tend to hurry them through childhood because of society and the way that it works around us. The hurried generation has become an issue in today's world, and we should allow our kids to grow up on their own terms. We have become so bent on pushing education now that a child has to learn to read and count at an extremely young age. They are already preparing for school when they are still a year or more away from even beginning preschool. Even so, the school systems are not the same as they once were. Teachers have to meet so many guidelines that are previously set for them. These guidelines force the teacher to make the students work with a very heavy load on them physically and emotionally. Some adults and children feel the same amount of stress every day. The children want to live up to expectations set by their parents. The effects that are caused by pressure from parents is very damaging. According to Gross, the term super kid is now being used as parents want their kids to be something that is so unrealistic. Our kids are trying so hard to please mom and dad that they often fail under the pressure. According to Laura Weldon, parents today buy toys that are educational to ensure that they are teaching their child through the toy. Structure at this age isn't doing anything positive for kids. Children should be carefree and see things come together for their own eyes. This applies both at school and at home. Researcher Rebecca Macron discovered that children who had been in early academically oriented programs gradually decline, falling behind their peers. It is actually proven that children who participate in play-based programs or programs that are focused more on play have greater success due to less structure, among other things as well. Even during middle school, students in the program had the highest grades and were at the top of the class. These students also had the highest social skills. The kids who attended the structured preschools needed more emotional impairment and had twice as much delinquent activity in school. To avoid hurrying a child, we should allow our kids to have a simple playtime to spend however they please. We should tell them how proud of them we are and who they are becoming. Life is not about being the best at everything. Why make them stress over something that is ultimately going to make no difference? Allow for optimism. Give room for experience and life lessons. Too much structure leads to no structure at all. The ACT, SAT, and many other tests that are college requirements put an unreasonable amount of stress upon a high school student. The prize at the end of the rainbow for many students is admission into a prestigious college. But the prize seems less attainable now than in the years past, says Miriam Wild. The ACT and SAT are the most common college entry exams to be focused on. Therefore, the higher the score, the more attractive you are to that specific college. Most kids have a dream college, a place that they see themselves furthering their education and becoming successful upon their career. This has caused continuous stress on high school students because the score is a major part of potential scholarships and even acceptance into a certain school. According to Miriam Wild, standard test stress has become a common stress for our youth. In some grades, the passing of a test is required to even move on from the grade to the next grade. This creates stress as well as honors and AP classes and end-of-course testing to achieve credit for the course. We have somehow become a society that makes youth sports a top priority. Now, some schools or parents only allow a kid to specialize in one specific sport, dedicating all their time to that activity. Today, our youth sports, ages 10 to 14, practice more than some professionals do. This contributes to both burnout and injury. Repetition of the same activity over and over will eventually wear you out, making you become burnt out or broken down because of injury. Parents push the kids hoping that they will earn college careers or even professional ones. As some may achieve the goal, many will not, and the pressure placed upon them was for nothing, says Reed. Children can also be hurried outside of school and sports when a child has too much of a social status so young. David Elkin's book, The Hurried Child, closely relates to the way that they are raising their children. Often parents get caught up in things and try to make their child become grown up too soon. Pressure on children alters their way of living. If a kid is constantly trying to live up to a standard, they will always feel a sense of failure and ultimately give up on trying to fit the mold. Elkin implies that allowing your kid to be a kid helps them beyond anything you can teach them. Allow them to experience childhood before life hits them too hard. Chores for children have a positive outcome on them, but when it becomes an overload, it starts to have a negative effect. Far too often, children are overwhelmed with the amount of chores they have to do every week. Many times, kids are prevented from doing normal kid things because they have to go home and mow the lawn or take out the trash and wash the dishes. Teens are able to take on this responsibility, but children, not so much. Parents tend to try to say that kids need to learn how to make it on their own, but at the same time, washing dishes, taking out the trash, and mowing the grass at 10 years old is completely unrealistic. Aside from chores, we also use older kids as the babysitter of the family. This allows for them to have no personal time for themselves or growing time for them having to act as an adult and take care of their younger siblings. This happens most often during times of a divorce or after a divorce, because the parent that they live with has no one to watch them, so the oldest automatically takes on this role. The things children see on television now is so inappropriate for their age, and it's so unexpected that parents can't stop them from seeing it. A parent can't monitor their child 24/7, but they also don't want to have to explain things to them before they're ready because they saw it on television. A child can see something one time and remember it forever. Children and over or early exposure to sexual content can cause a lasting effect. In a recent study, it was discovered that teens who had watched or saw things like sexual content or drugs were more likely to be involved in them, more likely than those who were not. Boys who listened to sexually explicit media were more likely to become sexually active within the following year or the next year after. Instead of the youth seeing it and becoming aware of it, it is more of a sex education to them, and this is where we have failed, says Ross. Children of this generation are now hitting puberty around 8 or 9 for girls and around 10 or 11 for boys. Girls are starting their period at about 12 years old, and they start experiencing effects of puberty at even younger ages. Even though a kid's body has matured quickly, it doesn't mean that their brain matures at the same speed. A kid can look older than they are, but we can't treat them that way. Social media for children is often too much for them to handle. It allows them to experience things that the parent may not be comfortable with them seeing yet, and once it has been seen, it can be taken back. Parents in today's society weren't part of the social media age as their kids, which makes it harder for them to relate to this subject. The biggest gift parents can give their children is to let them grow up slowly, says Dr. Carla Natterson, a Los Angeles-based pediatrician and author of several books on children's health and wellness. The hurried generation has become a major issue in today's world, and we should allow our kids to grow up on their own terms. If we have our future generation's life as a top priority, we should focus more on allowing them to have a normal childhood. Forcing them into their adult life too soon has many negative effects. We need to take the pressure off of them to fit a certain mold and let them be their own person first. We hurry our children through pressure in competitive sports, excellence in education, and giving adulthood to them too soon. If we would pull back the reins on them, we would have much more success in all aspects of life. Even though parents are only trying to better their children, hurrying them eventually leads to failure. No parent wants to feel as if they have failed their children, so always remember that sometimes less